Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to set up the attack for our attack scenario 1, which is essentially running some web scanners against a web server on our Windows machine, and then creating some detections based off of the Zeek data. All right, to start off, what we can do is open up Zeek. You might already have your Zeek instance running, but if you haven't, just to reiterate here, what we can do is navigate to opt Zeek. And then we're going to go into the bin. And then we're going to execute Zeek control as root. All right, and if Zeek is not already deployed, what we can do is just simply type deploy. Let that kick off. And now Zeek is good. All right, moving on to our Windows box. Let's get our Python web server up and running. What we can do is open up a PowerShell prompt. And let's spin up our web server here. You can type in python-m http.server. Okay. And you can see it's running on port 8000. Right here. So now our server is up and running, and we're going to test this in a second here. Okay, so as an example, let's say we want to make a text file. Let's just create a file that just contains some text that says this is a test, and it's going to be called testfile.txt. And we can see the file there contains that text that we put into it. All right. Now that we have that up and running, let's go to our parent box. And what we want to do before we start kicking off some tests is just to make sure that our web server is working as we anticipate it. Okay, so we can say HTTP, because this is an HTTP server and not an HTTPS server. We don't have any kind of SSL enabled or anything like that. It's just a very simple web server. Okay. And now we're going to type in the IP address of our Windows host, and yours might be different. Okay. But what we're going to have to do is specify the port. If you do HTTP without specifying the port, it assumes 80. And to specify the port, you could just do colon and then whatever port that you need to go to. And here you can see all the files contained within the user directory of my machine. Okay. And what's interesting here, you can crawl through everything under that directory and download it as if it was just a normal web server. And if we scroll down here, we can see our test file, and there's our test file. Okay. So essentially everything under this file path is accessible through the web server. And you can see us clicking around. You can see our get documents. You can see the get test file. So you can see what server resources are getting access. All right, now that we have our Windows server up and running, we have our parent OS being able to connect to the server, and we have Zeek running. What we can do if we want just to double check that Zeek is working as we anticipate it, we can go into our zeek.http dataset. And we can see some activity right here. Okay. And if you look and compare this to our output from the web server on the Windows host, and let's go back to that as a point of comparison here, you can see an HTTP 200 on get documents and the HTTP 200 success on the testfile.txt. Okay. And if we go back into our Elastic instance, we can see the same thing. All right. We have the initial get for the root directory. We can see the browser's attempt at getting the favicon, which if you don't know what a favicon is, that's essentially this little image icon right here that you see on your browser tabs. Okay. We can see our attempt at clicking into documents, and then we can see ourselves open up the testfile.txt. If you look here, you can see us accessing that testfile.txt. And some interesting pieces of information here. We can see our user agent, URL path, source IP, and destination IP. I set this up previously just to make the video go a little smoother here. But as a reminder, you can highlight any one of these add it as a column, okay? And you'll see the data populate in your table. As an exercise, as you're going through this course in general, I would recommend you manipulating these columns and exploring the data. So for example, you can click into this log, and let's say you want to know the destination port. You can go in here, find that destination port, click this button, toggle column and table, and that data gets generated in here. These can be resized to make the viewing easier. So again, the more you get familiar with the logs and the more that you understand what fields are important and what are not so important, you can help make different views, and it'll help your alert creating process and build up your knowledge on how to pick apart logs more than just what I'm going to go through in this course, okay? And while I will show you the fields that I personally care about and that I think are helpful for alert creation and showing the information in one single view, that skill set to take a log, chop it up into pieces, and decide what you care about is an important skill set that ultimately is obtained through just doing it, okay? So all that being said, we have everything working. All right, in the next video, we're actually going to perform the attack. I'll see you in the next one.